Tonight, parts of British Columbia shaken by an earthquake. Its epicenter northwest of Vancouver.
I was sitting at my desk and it was shaking quite bad. It was scary.
In a province where the risk is real, did the emergency alert system work? After a nail-biting overtime ended in the back of the U.S. net, exhales of relief across Canada.
It's right! We won the world!
Very proud to be Canadian right now.
In a clash of ideas about how to parent, Loud and Clear makes a comeback.
I asked them 10 times to get their shoes on and nobody did until I decided to absolutely go beast mode Batman voice on them, you know, and that's what actually worked.
Is gentle parenting getting a timeout?
From CBC News, this is The National with Erica Johnson.
Thank you for joining us. At exactly 1:26 p.m. local time here in British Columbia, thousands of people were rattled by an earthquake at magnitude 4.7, according to Earthquakes Canada. It didn't cause significant damage, but it definitely sent a reminder. Seismic activity in the area is a real danger. And as Lindsay Duncombe explains, an early warning system may not have reached everyone.
The shaking started just before 1:30 in the afternoon. CBC Radio interrupted with this warning.
Earthquake detected. Drop, cover, and hold on. Protect yourself.
Did anyone else feel that earthquake? I was in the middle of taking an exam.
No reports of damage, but it was all a bit scary.
At first, I felt the ground shaking, then my eyes were shaking. I was like, whoa, what's going on? And I noticed that it could have been an earthquake.
I was sitting at my desk and it was shaking quite bad. It was scary.
This barber shop owner was jolted from a nap.
I was kind of sleepy and then I felt my chair was just moving. What's going on? And I picked up the phone, I called my wife. She was sitting in the car waiting for the kids. And she said, yeah, I felt that even the car was moving. What?
The epicenter was near Sechelt, northwest of Vancouver. More than 5,000 people reported they felt the earthquake. Quakes this strong happen more frequently offshore, less so inland.
Certainly a significant event. People feel it widely. It's still just below the threshold or at which we might expect damage.
BC's Emergency Preparedness Minister says today's quake is a reminder to British Columbians to be prepared.
I'm very grateful that today's event wasn't more serious, but we need to use this as an opportunity to be ready for a big one.
It was also a test of the warning system, and it's unclear if the system passed. Some people received these alerts on their phones, others did not.
It is a federal system, so I'll be working with my federal counterpart to help them understand where there were gaps in the system, because we want to make sure people are well informed and can keep themselves safe in case of earthquake.
We reached out to the federal government, Erica, and it says that those early warnings kick in when there's anticipation of strong shaking, the kind that could cause harm. So that may be why some people got it and some people didn't. It's something they're going to look into.
Okay, now, of course, Lindsay, you and I were in the Vancouver newsroom when this happened. It was quite a scene.
Yeah, it unfolded kind of like it's supposed to in the drills, you know. We felt the shaking and then we went underneath our desk. My colleagues where we were sitting waited for it to be over, and then everyone had to leave the building for a little bit just until it was safe.
Glad it all ended well. Thank you so much, Lindsay Duncombe in Vancouver. After the relief of Thursday night's overtime victory on the ice, you could excuse Canadians a little Friday gloating. And a lot of them were watching. According to Sportsnet, more than 10 million. Sarah Levitt shows us the aftermath of a win that echoed well beyond the rink.
From sea to sea to sea and even abroad, Canadians are basking in the glow of an epic win at the Four Nations Cup.
It's a big thing. It's right. We won the world.
One of the best experiences of my life. Very proud to be Canadian right now.
I was really happy.
You can't lose to the U.S., right? So it was the best moment.
Canada's success in hockey is renowned, but the United States has become a powerhouse of its own.
That's going to do it. A hard-fought Team USA victory.
They had beaten Canada 3-1 in their first meeting of the tournament, so Thursday night's game had an edge. Scrappy, tense, with an overtime close, making the ultimate win even better.
In that room is proud to be a Canadian. And yeah, did we need a win? Not only our team,
but Canada needed a win.
A sentiment felt by many after a month filled with Donald Trump's tariff threats and comments about Canada as the 51st state.
You're not just playing for the maple leaf on the front of you anymore. You're playing for the whole country, and to kind of show him, like, look, we're proud. This is our game. Leave us alone.
It's a pivotal time to show our force, a great nation.
I don't know. It's really nice to be able to kind of like stick it to the man a little bit. Like, I don't know if I can say that.
This is the Canada-U.S. stuff that has been going on over the last month and a half. It was great to see for the country, for the player. You can't write a better script.
A script that even had Canada's political leaders united, showing perhaps that sport really can bring people together, even if for the moment.
Indeed. Sarah, we actually won't have to wait long to possibly see the two teams battle it out again.
No, the Milan Olympics are less than a year away. NHL players haven't been allowed to play in the Olympics since 2016, but now they can. The NHL has also announced the Hockey World Cup will be coming in 2028. So we know we'll have multiple events where we get to watch Canada try and defend its title as the world's best hockey team. What we don't know, will the U.S. threats remain to spur on Canadian hockey pride?
Lots to watch. Thanks, Sarah. Sarah Levitt in Montreal tonight. Breaking tonight in Ottawa, Liberal leadership candidate Ruby Dhalla has been disqualified from the race to succeed Justin Trudeau. Kate McKenna explains what caused the party to take action.
Former Liberal leadership candidate Ruby Dhalla says she found out she was being kicked out of the race from CBC News.
What do you say that it was unanimous?
Well, I think it speaks to the state of the Liberal Party of Canada that a candidate who is running to become leader of the party, who is running to become prime minister in our country, is finding out that she has been disqualified on air from an email that the media outlet that she is interviewing with has received.
The Liberal Party issued an evening release saying former MP Ruby Dhalla broke 10 rules, including violating the Canada Elections Act, inaccurate financial reporting, and non-disclosure of material facts. Dhalla says she's being pushed out.
Because they did not want anyone challenging the front runner, their blue-eyed boy, Mark Carney.
A source told CBC News she's accused of accepting donations from a corporation in the form of payments to campaign staff and for failing to disclose the involvement of a non-Canadian citizen in the campaign. She says it's not true.
These are false and fabricated stories that are being made up. We have provided them with all of the information in regards to this.
She can appeal, but one veteran Liberal says the party wouldn't do this without evidence.
In these situations, the party, if it's going to take a big step to disqualify someone, is going to make sure they've got legal cover for it. They're going to run it past every lawyer they know.
Dhalla is the second candidate to be disqualified. The first was MP Chandra Arya. Neither was considered a frontrunner.
There really was no one out there who believed she had any chance to win or even finish in the top three in this race. So to that end, it probably doesn't really change the dynamics a lot.
There are still 4 candidates in the Liberal leadership race: Mark Carney, Chrystia Freeland, Karina Gould, and Frank Baylis. There's such a debate next week. Kate McKenna, CBC News, Ottawa.
Some Canadian premiers were back in Washington today, there to warn U.S. governors about the damage Donald Trump's tariffs and rhetoric could cause. As Katie Simpson explains, while some agree with the message, others seem unaware of how this is all playing out north of the border.
I, Howard Lutnick.
One of the most pro-tariff voices in the president's ear is now officially a member of cabinet.
He'll help oversee the tariff and trade agenda.
Howard Lutnick views tariffs as a way to create new American jobs and generate wealth. Canada's premiers returning to Washington to push back against that narrative.
The most productive thing we can do for Canadians and on behalf of Canadians is just continue to stress how tightly integrated our economies are and how important the relationship is.
What's shocking to me is how misinformed a lot of elected officials down here, how critical Canada plays in their economy.
At the annual gathering of U.S. governors, the Canadian message is met with some resistance among Republicans.
The White House wants to reset the deck and wants to bring manufacturing back home, and I think that's a fantastic idea.
The Democratic governor of Kentucky, who is strongly against tariffs, pleading with Canada not to retaliate against his state.
And so I hope that in the response, we see maybe a rethinking of Hal Bourbon
is being treated in retaliatory responses, because nobody should have to go without Kentucky bourbon.
But even some of Canada's allies don't seem to get how insulted many Canadians feel in this moment.
If Donald Trump goes ahead with the tariffs, what is it going to do to your
Good. I like Canada. It's my favorite 51st state. And we bring down, that's a joke, by the way.
I know, the thing is, in Canada, that's not going to go over as a joke.
Okay, leave that outside. But we bring down hydro, we bring down energy. The idea of putting a 20% tariff on that is terrible for our region. It's not the right way for the president to go.
Canada could be hit by yet another presidential threat, possible new tariffs applied to countries with digital services taxes that American tech giants have complained about. Katie Simpson, CBC News, Washington.
On the long list of goods Trump has mused about hitting with new tariffs is lumber. The U.S. president signaling this week that could happen in April. As Nisha Patel shows us, that has the Canadian industry bracing and worried.
This week, the U.S. president is targeting lumber.
If they don't make their product in America, then they have to pay a tariff.
Though the size of any potential tariff is still unclear. 25% on softwood lumber could come in April. Stack that on top of the almost 15% import duty already charged by the U.S., which is itself expected to rise, and the fear is the levies could reach 50% or higher.
There could be significant impacts on some of the production in Canada, which has ripple effects throughout the supply chain and has implications for workers and communities.
Donald Trump has been hearing from U.S. lumber producers who claim Canadian imports hurt domestic companies, and they're urging him to level the playing field. Softwood lumber has been a source of tension between the two countries for decades. The last trade agreement expired 10 years ago.
We think a longer-term solution would be to come to a long-term agreement, a negotiated settlement, but so far that hasn't happened.
Still, there would be a price to pay south of the border. U.S. home builders say tariffs would raise construction costs, and those would be passed on to American consumers.
Nobody really knows what's going on. That's very, very difficult for business to make their plans.
It's been 50 years.
The tariff concerns have even worked their way down to this small Toronto lumber yard.
It's just the unknown. We just don't know right now. I'm afraid for the next couple of years, 100%.
Manager Carmo De Silva worries the ripple effects of U.S. tariffs could cause lumber shortages or price spikes here. The uncertainty is forcing him to make changes.
We had to cut hours, and we know that some people are going to struggle.
If those tariffs become a reality, there may be even more struggles to come. Nisha Patel, CBC News, Toronto.
P.E.I.'s new premier was sworn in today. Rob Lantz now leads the province.
At a time of uncertainty, whether in trade, tariffs, or the many challenges we face, I am committed to ensuring that Islanders' interests come first.
Lantz is a longtime progressive conservative who was most recently the province's education minister. His new role comes less than 24 hours after Dennis King announced he was resigning as premier and leaving politics. A significant development tonight in the case of the man accused of killing 2 children and injuring 6 others when a transit bus crashed into a Quebec daycare in 2023. The Quebec Crown now says 2 psychiatrists have examined the accused and concluded he should be found not criminally responsible due to a mental disorder. The Crown and defense will now present the facts of the case jointly at his trial in April. For a second time, Israel has received remains that militants claim belong to October 7th hostage Shiri Bibas after the first body was found not to be her. But as Crystal Gamansing explains, however it happened, it's thrown the carefully choreographed Gaza ceasefire into disarray.
For this hostage family, there is no closure, no certainty. Our painful journey is not over, says the sister-in-law of Shiri Bibas in a recorded video statement. October 7th continues. Late Friday, Israel received a coffin said to contain the remains of Bibas for the second time. Tests determined the one Hamas sent Thursday was not her or that of any other Israeli hostage held in Gaza.
And I don't begin to understand what Hamas was thinking. Did they think we wouldn't figure it out?
One of the saddest days I can remember. And rage towards the Hamas, and frustration to our government who did not bring them back home.
The Bibas children in particular became the symbol of who we are and who we're fighting against.
Clutching the boys' photo, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said the children were murdered in captivity by Hamas. Hamas disputes that and has said Shiri and the boys, Ariel and Kafir, were killed in an Israeli airstrike. Their father and Shiri's husband, Yarden, was also taken hostage October 7th. He was released earlier this month.
I will not rest until the savages who executed our hostages are brought to justice. They do not deserve to walk this earth. Nothing will stop me. Nothing.
That rage is plunging the future of the ceasefire in Gaza into further doubt. The first phase of the ceasefire is set to end on March 1st. Dozens of hostages have been exchanged for Palestinian prisoners, but the Trump administration's proposal to take over Gaza has complicated negotiations.
If I were them, I'd release everybody, or they're going to face total annihilation right now.
A test of Hamas and Israel's commitment is coming. 6 more hostages, 4 of whom were kidnapped on October 7th, and more than 600 Palestinian prisoners are set to be released Saturday. Crystal Gamansing, CBC News, London.
The man who viciously attacked Salman Rushdie in 2022 has been convicted of attempted murder. Hadi Matar ran toward Rushdie at a public speaking event, stabbing him more than a dozen times, leaving the prize-winning author seriously injured and blind in one eye. Matar was heard uttering "Free Palestine" after the verdict was delivered. He faces separate federal terrorism charges, alleging his attack was motivated by the Iranian-backed militant group Hezbollah. Pope Francis is expected to remain in hospital at least through next week, but his doctors say his medical condition is not life-threatening.
He's fine now. He's fine.
Francis is being treated for a complex respiratory infection, and his doctors say he is responding to drug therapy. But they also say the 88-year-old is not completely out of danger. Canadians took in last night's big hockey win against the U.S. in homes and bars and even the great outdoors.
It was definitely worth it to watch it out there. We just put some hand warmers in our gloves and bundled up.
The fans who embraced the elements for a very Canadian viewing party coming up. Plus, growing concern about the use of artificial intelligence in movies.
They do not want us here. AI is already taking over.
Why some warn about a slippery slope of technology. And later, parents fed up with the demands they're facing.
So if my kids happen to get a little bit nervous when they hear their name at a higher decibel, then good.
The backlash against what's known as gentle parenting. We're back in 2. A 13-year-old girl found unconscious Tuesday in a Montreal suburb snowbank has died. Châteauguay's mayor suggested the teen was playing in a snow tunnel when it collapsed, but police have not commented on the circumstances and continue to investigate. The Oscars are reportedly considering a rule change following backlash that 2 Best Picture nominees used artificial intelligence. Magda Gebrselassie shows us how it could change the awards race.
They do not want us here.
The Brutalist is up for Best Picture at the Oscars, and its star Adrian Brody nominated for Best Actor. But last month there was backlash after news spread the production used artificial intelligence.
They've just used like a very small percentage.
The film reportedly used re-speecher to tweak the lead actors' voices while they were speaking Hungarian. The tech was used in Oscar contender Emilia Perez 2, helping increase the vocal range of the musical's lead, Carla Sofia Gascon.
What you doing?
While this dialect coach is less worried about the limited use of AI in these films, he says its use in other areas raises concerns for the future.
We're seeing in parts of the industry like voiceover actors, commercial voice actors, gaming industry as well. AI is already taking over.
Concerns about AI were a driver of Hollywood's 2023 strikes, during which writers and actors negotiated some protections. But now the Academy behind the Oscars may be ready to weigh in too. It's considering changes requiring films to disclose if AI was used, according to Variety.
I do think that like directors, actors, studios, like it is a responsibility to them to give audiences kind of the whole picture.
We usually have a lot of traction.
But this post-production expert is reminding audiences that Hollywood movie magic has always included manipulation tools.
You're taking away pimples all the time. You're taking away, you're making people look younger, old. I mean, it's all cheating, right? Like it's cheating for a creative benefit.
But some of that creativity may call for more clarity come April. That's reportedly when the Academy is expected to roll out a new guideline for Oscar submissions. Magda Gebrselassie, CBC News, Toronto.
Calgary plays host to a first-of-its-kind tournament, a sport more often associated with high school gym class.
I'm more of a thrower and a catcher, but a lot of people are really good at dodging.
The excitement growing on the dodgeball court. Plus, Germany's far-right party could make big gains as the country heads to the polls this weekend.
I think the main message for the Western elites was there is a new sheriff in town. Get ready and get over it.
Margaret Evans looks at how it's using social media to attract younger supporters. And the growing revolt against the idea of gentle parenting.
I think it's just, really contributing to this overall standard of unrealistic expectations.
Why some say it's time for a little more tough love. The National breaks down the stories shaping our world next. An unexpected song last night in the middle of an Edmonton concert. When the band Our Lady Peace heard the final score of the Four Nations Cup, they stopped the set and led fans in singing "O Canada." It happened just moments after hometown hero Connor McDavid scored the winner. Young dodgeballers from around the globe are in Calgary this week for the first ever World Youth Open. Dodgeball is growing quickly, looking to find a place in international sport. Aaron Collins dropped in on the action.
This is a global first. Youth teams from around the world gathered to play dodgeball.
Like, if you just imagine you don't like someone, you can just pretend that person is the person you don't like, so you can just hit them, and then you get the feeling of hitting the person you don't like.
The sport growing, played by nearly 100 million people in 70 countries.
Do you think maybe one day dodgeball could be in the Olympics?
I think, it's really going to be an Olympic game. Yeah, for sure.
And you can play for Mexico.
I think, yeah.
Dodgeball, long a hit in popular culture.
I'm really sorry. Are you all right?
Why would you hit a girl? Why?
Now making inroads as a legitimate sport, one played with familiar rules, but two kinds of balls.
Right, this is a foam dodgeball. There's also cloth ones. What's the difference?
Yeah, so the foam dodgeballs are a little less dense. They're spongier, where the cloth ones are air-filled with a cloth texture, and they're bouncier.
Both of them sting, though, I'd say.
Yes, you get them thrown hard enough, and you'll feel the both of them, yes, absolutely.
Canada, a world power in the foam ball category.
And it hits her.
A gold medal finish for Canada, the repeat world champions.
Winning the women's and mixed competitions at the World Championships this summer. Youth teams from across Canada competing here in Calgary.
Different people bring different things, where for me, I'm more of a thrower and a catcher, but a lot of people are really good at dodging, and that's a really major thing that you want to get into.
Sound advice echoed on the big screen.
If you can dodge a wrench, you can dodge a ball.
What?
Well, this real-world tournament wraps up this weekend. Canada's teams hoping to dodge, dip, and dive their way onto the podium. Aaron Collins, CBC News, Calgary.
It's time to dig deeper into the stories shaping our world. It's a modern-day child-rearing style based on feelings and empathy. But some are now questioning the merit of gentle parenting.
As parents, we've relegated our jobs to our kids.
Why the pendulum may be swinging back. But first,
I'm very excited for the AfD.
fresh off public embraces from Elon Musk and J.D. Vance, Germany's far-right AfD party is polling high ahead of this weekend's national election, taking its tough on immigration message to a new audience.
They do really good content and they know how to manipulate on social media.
Senior international correspondent Margaret Evans looks at how that mainstream social media messaging both masks and signals much more radical ideas.
Hallo, ich bin hier im Deutschen Bundestag.
German TikTok and the account of Marie-Therese Kaiser, young, attractive, and one of a growing number of social media influencers enticing young voters to the far right, in particular the Alternative for Germany Party, or AfD.
Die AfD, das ist doch die Partei für alte weiße Männer.
If you thought the AfD is just for old white men, then the trend is the complete opposite, she says in this post.
Richtig, hier auf meinem TikTok-Profil. Seid schlau, wählt blau.
She's a candidate in the German election, but already has a foot in the door at the Bundestag, or Parliament, personal assistant to AfD party leader Alice Weidel. Kaiser has also been fined by the German courts for incitement to hatred for posts against Afghan refugees. The AfD says social media allows it to circumvent traditional media, part of an establishment they say muzzles the AfD.
I get a lot of messages from people, from students who are still at school, and their teachers are telling them, oh no, the AfD is not a good party.
The AfD, parts of which are under surveillance by German intelligence for suspected extremism, is on course to become the second largest party in parliament. That's double the 10% it won in 2021.
And across Europe, free speech, I fear, is in retreat.
Praise from U.S. Vice President J.D. Vance has also given them a boost.
I think the main message for the Western elites was there is a new sheriff in town. Get ready and get over it.
They're the strongest political player on TikTok. They regularly produce viral campaigns.
Analysts, including Raphael Loos, say the AfD's social media campaign is putting them way ahead in the battle for new young voters.
Personal engagement through social media allows the AfD to really simplify their messages, to produce emotionally grabbing messages, clips, without the need to confront, fact-checking.
If the AfD is appealing to more young Germans, it begs the question, is it the medium or the message, or both? Schools in Berlin have been holding mock elections, an exercise in democracy for kids still too young to vote, but not too young to be on the AfD's radar.
I'm not interested in that party at all, but I keep seeing news about them. I keep seeing posts from them. I keep seeing people that post for them.
They're very strong on social media. They do really good content and they know how to manipulate on social media.
And they found a powerful ally in the American tech billionaire Elon Musk, accused of performing not one, but two not-so-secret Nazi salutes after the inauguration of Donald Trump.
I'm very excited for the AfD, and I think you're really the best hope for Germany.
He beamed into a party conference with a message for young Germans.
Children should not be guilty of the sins of their parents, or even let alone their parents, their great-grandparents, maybe even.
That's a dig at Germany's decades-old policy of atonement for Nazi Germany's murder of some 6 million Jews in the Holocaust. All school children are taught the history, part of the same never again commitment embodied by the firewall, a pact between mainstream parties never to share power with the far right. Musk has also embraced the AFD leader, Alice Weidel, who critics call a political fig leaf, a gay woman who shares 2 children with a partner of Sri Lankan origin while leading a political party that doesn't recognize their unit as a family. Raphael Los says the AFD relies on dog whistle politics to present 2 very different faces.
That rhetoric is being used to signal to far-right electorates that what you read here isn't really what we mean. We are more radical than how we present in public.
It can make it hard to predict the country's direction of travel, especially when much of it is happening online. But there is considerable pushback both against the AFD and what many Germans see as unacceptable political interference from the new Washington.
Some German universities and research institutes have left X, formerly Twitter, saying it goes against their core values, including open-mindedness, scientific integrity, and democratic discourse.
And old-fashioned ways of messaging are still alive and well out on the streets and in crowded squares. The people who say they're the 80% against the far right.
Germans go to the polls this Sunday, where no party is expected to win a majority. All the mainstream parties say they won't form a coalition with the Alternative for Germany party. Coming up, pushback over some growing pressures around modern parenting.
The mayhem, the chaos, the losing your temper is all part of the normal experience of parenting children.
Why parents are revolting against gentle parenting. That's next. Gentle parenting, a modern-day child-rearing style based on kids' feelings and motivations.
Trying to parent in a way that's respectful, in a way that embodies empathy.
Now, some parents are pushing back.
The standards being set for parents these days are backbreaking.
Deanna Sumanak-Johnson examines the growing backlash as parents seek a happy medium between too strict and too soft.
Whether she's running errands in her car,
I halfway lost my mind trying to get them all out of the pool this afternoon.
dancing in the kitchen of her New York home, or dropping truth bombs about parenting.
Today, one of my kids had the balls to ask me why we don't do more fun things like Bluey's parents do. And I was like, because I'm not a fucking cartoon dog.
Social media creator Caitlin Murray is making parents feel seen. 1.7 million people follow her Instagram account, Big Time Adulting. Almost 3 million have liked her content on TikTok. But more than entertaining, Murray's posts also hit a nerve, with parents pushing back against the demands of modern parenting, specifically so-called gentle parenting.
I get really pissed off when no one's listening to me. So if my kids happen to get a little bit nervous when they hear their name at a higher decibel, then good. At least maybe they'll put their friggin' shoes on. You know, sometimes you gotta light a little fire under their ass to just keep the day moving along.
The mayhem, the chaos, the losing your temper is all part of the normal experience of parenting children, and that the standards being set for parents these days are backbreaking and really causing an enormous amount of stress and overwhelm, and it's not good for us.
If you have become a parent in the last decade or so, chances are you have tried some version of gentle parenting, whether you call it that or not.
When you hear the words gentle parenting as a therapist, how would you describe it?
I really think about parents trying to parent in a way that's respectful, in a way that embodies empathy.
For many parents, says this family therapist, raising their children this way felt like a pushback against the more authoritative way they were brought up.
Millennials are realizing that there was an emphasis on being seen and not heard, maybe in their upbringing, and so they're hoping to change that a little bit. There's a lot of self-reflection.
Well-meaning though it may be, parenting where you're always trying to be gentle, always understanding of the child's feelings, never raising your voice, has its price.
There's a degree of burnout in parenting culture right now. People are tired and they're feeling inadequate. A part of it, I think, is a bit of a misunderstanding of gentle parenting, this idea that it's permissive, it's incredibly child-centric, and so it just removes the humanity from the parent. There's no room for you to be flawed or to not do it perfectly.
That burnout has even been noted in a report by the U.S. Surgeon General, where Dr. Vivek Murthy calls modern parenting a significant public health issue. The report zeroes in on concrete sources of stress, like increased economic pressures and little childcare support in the U.S., but there are other stressors as well. It says guilt and shame have become pervasive, and societal expectations, norms, and pressures to meet perceived standards of parenting can contribute to stress as well.
For modern parents, the ideals of gentle parenting might seem to be everywhere, from parenting books to conversations with other parents, and they're often extolled on social media.
What they have been
imagined
doing, sitting on their phone
yelling at my husband, just like.
It's something Toronto mother Chelsea Strawn found firsthand when she had her daughter Hazel 2 years ago.
Women are in their most vulnerable state as they're starting to become parents, and especially with the constant thought of not wanting to mess up our kids. So I think it's very overwhelming, and I think it's really hard to weed out what's right for you.
And that sense of being overwhelmed is leading some to re-examine or downright reject gentle parenting, the revolt you can see in the headlines about parenting trends.
Why gentle parenting is proving too rough for many parents. Parents are revolting against once popular gentle parenting style, or in the thousands of comments thanking Caitlin Murray for her posts.
Never raise your voice, never lose your patience, meet every need of your child, and be consistent always. What do you think is the impact?
I think it's just, really contributing to this overall standard of unrealistic expectations being placed on all of us, and unrealistic expectations being placed on our kids to always, stay under control, or we're not robots. We have to be able to experience a whole range of human emotion. I completely lost it this morning with my kids because I asked them 10 times to get their shoes on and nobody did, until I decided to absolutely go beast mode Batman voice on them, and that's what actually worked. It's that's normal, that happens.
Instead of telling your child what to stop doing, use the words "I won't let you," and then tell your child what they can do instead.
In fact, even the woman many people think epitomizes gentle parenting rejects the label. Clinical psychologist Becky Kennedy has become a worldwide celebrity through her subscription-based parenting advice service called Good Inside. More than 1 million parents around the world subscribe, 94% of them mothers. Good Inside parenting's main principle: punishments like timeouts don't work, but acknowledging the feelings that cause your child to act out does.
Some people will still associate you with gentle parenting. And just today I saw 2 or 3 articles that have brought you up as a proponent or a guru of gentle parenting. Why do you think that is, and why is it important for you to distinguish yourself from that?
I think the words we use matter.
She says she actually prefers the term sturdy parenting, where parents set the boundaries firmly but still stay connected to their child's feelings.
Why do you think that is? This kind of mass pushback against the tenets of gentle parenting, saying this is not working, it's not sustainable.
I would agree. I think there's been this overcorrection, and that's why I think it's so important for people to understand, at least where I stand, whether you believe in it or not, or want more information or not, I at least want to be classified correctly. There has been this overcorrection from punishing our kid, in which situation it's I'm the authority. I happen to be a kind of authoritarian authority. It's not even effective, but I'm an authoritarian authority and I send my kids away. Okay. And there's been this overcorrection to my kids' feelings. Not only do they matter, they now dictate what I do. I actually think this overcorrection has led to, as parents, we've like relegated our jobs to our kids. We're letting them pilot the plane.
So where does that leave parents trying to wade through the maze that is parenting in the year 2025? Well, it seems more of a choose-your-own-adventure approach.
You are allowed to feel like this is unsustainable. And what I would encourage people to do is explore another way of parenting if that feels like it's suitable for you. I think a lot of times we see people saying, oh, I'm gentle parenting and I've been trying this thing and I've been trying this thing because that's what all the books say and that's what all the experts say. And so it feels like this thing that isn't a choice. It's this thing that they've been dragged into doing, right? It's almost like they've been strong-armed into doing it. The societal pressure is too great to like withstand. And so to that, I say, give yourself grace, but try something different if you need to.
We're all messing up all day. I mean, I mess up 10 times more than I get it right every single day. But like, my kids know that they are loved and they know that I am there for them and they know that if they need anything, that I will be the one to come to their aid.
As for our new mom, Chelsea, well, with Hazel just 2 years old, she says she's still finding her way, and that's all right.
I've discovered that I'm more gentle just by seeing how I parent. I've discovered those things just through experience. I didn't discover those things Googling what is gentle parenting, what is this and what is that. I discovered it just by being her mom.
Going with her gut and her intuition, the type of parenting that these days sounds revolutionary.
Now, Deanna, we saw how gentle parenting can make parents feel. What about the kids?
Well, Erica, 2 recent studies out of Canadian universities examined how children act at school. So they highlighted how elementary school kids demonstrated incivility or lack of respect towards their peers and teachers. Now, is this just because of gentle parenting? There are certainly other factors. There's social media, maybe residue of COVID lockdowns, but teachers often tell me when I interview them that today's parents, more than the previous generation, seem to think their child is always right. They don't tend to want to address poor behavior in class. Is this a result of going too far with gentle parenting? Again, it's tough to tell. I guess things will become more clear when we see how these kids are as they get into their early adulthood.
Indeed, we will. Thanks for this, Deanna. Deanna Sumac-Johnson in Toronto. Next, the hockey fans who watched last night's game in a snow fort.
Watching a game like this, especially in a fort, is something very Canadian. It was definitely worth it to watch it out there.
A Canadian spectacle in our moment. You're looking at some avid hockey fans celebrating Canada's victory against the U.S., all from their snow fort in Brampton, Ontario. They decided to trade the comfort of the indoors for a real Canadian experience. And tonight, their winter watch party makes our moment.
It started off, with building a fort on Family Day, something that kind of brought us back to our childhood. We realized the finals were coming up. Watching a game like this, especially in a fort, is something very Canadian. It was definitely worth it to watch it out there. We put some hand warmers in our gloves and bundled up. And we thought, what better way to chill our beers than to put it on the wall, and of course drinking Molson Canadian.
The entire game was nonstop, fast hockey, great hockey to watch. It was funny because at the beginning of the third period, Ryan actually said it would be pretty sick if they go into overtime and Connor McDavid scores the OT winner, and it's kind of like a passing of the torch. As you can imagine, when Marner passed the puck to McDavid and he was all alone in front of the net, everyone was jumping up and down and super excited, and what a great way to wrap up the first Four Nations tournament.
I think regardless of anything going on now, we would have done this, and we were supporting Canada, but that was definitely a big win and one we were happy to watch in our snow fort.
And as there is still lots of snow still with us, they say that they are not quite done with that fort. They might build a roof on it. And if you're wondering, are they ever going to do this again? Apparently the resounding answer is yes. They all had a blast, and you can sure tell they did. From all of us at The National, thank you for being with us. You can watch anywhere, anytime on the free CBC News app and subscribe to The National's YouTube channel. I'm Erica Johnson in Vancouver. Take care.